Hi guys, Caboozles here of Team Rhino. I know I haven't done a video in a while, but it's been the Christmas period and I just got a new job. So basically, that's done now. I'll be putting up at least a video a week, maybe a few more if I can. And this is the first of, my videos for the new year. So this is a deck profile of Qliphorts, which obviously used to be a tier 1 deck. They got pretty slaughtered by the ban list, but I think they're still a playable deck. They're a fantastic budget deck, and I just think they're really good in general. They can still compete. I mean, they're not going to be like winning every match. They're not tier 1, but I think they're a solid tier 2 choice, and therefore one that I would like to profile. Also, they're actually one of my favourite decks. The only time I got out of them was when Towers Turbo got introduced. They weren't very fun to play then, but before that, they were a pretty fun to play deck. They're really good. They're quite a good anti-meta choice. They can side things like Vanity's Fiend and Majesty's Fiend, or even main them if they want. And those can really help out against the meta. The only issue with them is they can't main any real anti-pendulum stuff, because obviously they are a pendulum deck, so you can't main things like anti-spell fragrance. And on top of that, because of those cards, people are likely to have outs to you in their side deck. So I'm not going to go through the side deck or the extra in this, because also Qliphorts all have the restriction which says, let's show you, you cannot special summon monsters except for Qli monsters when they're in the pendulum zone. So it becomes much harder to actually use your extra deck in this deck. But nevertheless, I would run an extra deck. It would be full of things like just staple rank 4s, maybe a couple of rank 5s. But basically staple cards. I mean, you can put anything in your extra deck and still complete with this. Your extra deck isn't that important to the overall strategy of the deck. So I'm not going to go into that. But if you do want to know, just give us a comment. I'm not going to go into my side either, because that's very subjective, and I haven't been to locals recently. So I don't know if I could give you guys as good a side as I would like to. So without further ado, let's get into the main deck. Okay, after the ban list, unfortunately, only one scout. This guy is the heart and soul of the deck. You guys all know what it does, really. You pay 100 life points, and you get to add a Qliphort card from your deck to your hand. Having one copy I haven't actually found to be too bad. People do destroy it, but as you'll see later, there are ways of getting it back. And it's still, I wish it was add 3, but it's not. Now, I play 2 Monolith. I used to play 1 before, but obviously now that Scout's gone, Monolith is the next best card. Obviously, it's a Summoner's Art target as well. Monolith is a great card. It lets you draw per number of Qli monsters that have been tributed this turn, which is absolutely fantastic. People will barely ever MST or anything this, because they're waiting for your Scout. And I don't think they realise just the amount of advantage you get off of Monolith. I honestly think this card is quite underrated. I wouldn't play it at 3 though, because it clogs, because obviously it doesn't have the thing which every Qliphort has, where they can just be normal summoned, because it's only a normal monster. So I think 2 is the right amount. It's also the only expensive card now in the deck. So this is now, I think, about £10. So it's relatively expensive, but the rest is so cheap that this is a really good budget deck. Then I play 3 Stealth. This guy is amazing. Your opponent can't chain his effect when he's tribute summoned, which is to bounce 1 card. So if you set up the chain so you set up your chain link so that this is the last card to resolve, your opponent can't do anything. You can bring up some pretty fantastic combos with him. Like you can bounce Scout, which lets you use Scout again that turn to search again. Overall, he's amazing. All the Qliphorts obviously also have that built-in effect where if they're normal summoned, monsters with lower level or rank lower than theirs can't affect them. So again, really good. Qliphorts are such a good deck. I wish some of the stuff would go off the ban list. To be honest, only Scout. The rest I don't really care about. If Scout went back to 3, this deck would be great. Then I play 3 Shell. I've seen some people not playing 3 Shell. I don't know why, because I actually think this is probably the best, one of the best sacrifices now. It lets you attack twice, which is just brilliant to push through, anything really, and get off OTKs. It's a scale 9 as well. And obviously, because you're missing Scout, you've lost some scale 9s. But yeah, this card is brilliant. The whole attacking twice thing is amazing, and he can do it. He doesn't have to destroy a monster to attack again, like a lot of these attacking twice monsters. So it's just a great card in general. Only 1 disc, because I don't think the main strategy of the deck anymore is to use disc for OTKs. I would rather use Shell. I think Shell's a better card, because Disc gives your opponent an opportunity to respond as well. That doesn't happen in the battle phase, and often people forget what Shell can do. So I've had more success with Shell, and I would keep Disc at just 1 for now. Although maybe you could put it up to 2 if you wanted to cut this card, Cephalopod. With pendulum decks coming out now, Cephalopod is not as effective as it used to be. Used to be able to kill people with it quite often from its effect because of all their stuff in the grave, which you don't have. But nevertheless, it's still pretty effective. It's a scale 9 as well instead of 1. So if you wanted to change these ratios up a bit, you could put in another disc. But I like Cephalopod at the moment. I don't know if that'll change in the future, but yeah, I like Cephalopod. He lets you burn your opponent, but apart from that, he's alright. He's not the best of the tributes. Then we go into sort of the bread and butter of the deck, which is Helix, which when it's tributed lets you destroy a spell or trap, and Carrier. 3 of each. You have to do 3 of each. Obviously, your monster count's down a bit now, but they are just fantastic cards. Both brilliant, and they're part of the main strategy of the deck. 1 Trampolinx, because it does allow you access to your extra deck. When you pendulum summon, you get to bounce the other cards, so you won't have any Qliphorts in your pendulum zone, which lets you actually use your extra deck. On top of that, he lets you get off multiple scout searches and is in general just a great card. Now we're on to the magic cards. Spell cards, sorry, I always say that. Sacrifice. This card is amazing. Where Qliphort equipped that can't be destroyed by battle. When it's sent to the graveyard, you get search and a Qli equipped with it. Can be treated as 2 tributes. So this card is amazing. I actually still think this should stay on the ban list because it's an incredibly good card. It was ridiculous at 3. But yeah, it's usually one of the first things that I will search with Scout. 1 Laser Clip. I actually like this card quite a lot. I'm testing it at the moment. I removed something that I'll tell you later for this card. Because you'll see that I only run 2 copies of it. But I'm really finding this successful. It really lets me accelerate my plays, and I think because you can't rely on special summoning as much as you used to, because your opponent can have answers to it, this can really help you out. 3 Ignite Reload. Our consistency's down because we've lost Scouts, and this card really helps out a lot with getting your consistency back up there. It's a fantastic card. It's a quick play as well, some people forget that, so that can be useful at times. But it just lets you fix those bad hands, and it's a really good card. 2 Wavering Eyes. I side the other one. This was the thing that I removed for Laser Clip. I'm liking it so far because I haven't found, Wavering Eyes is really good against Pendulum decks, but I tend to have not been playing them that much recently. That's why I take one out, but that may change soon, to be honest. So 2 or 3, it's up to you. It's your choice, whether or not you like Laser Clip, really. 2 Pot of Duality. Sometimes I love this card, sometimes I hate this card. Obviously, we only have 1 Scout now, so we need to dig for our Scout, so we need some kind of way of doing that. Pot of Duality is brilliant for that, but the whole no special summoning restriction slows this deck down even more, and obviously we're in a new meta which is much faster, which can cause problems. So I don't know whether it would be better to run upstarts instead of 3 upstarts instead of 2 Pot of Dualities, but I just don't know what to remove for the other upstart. Because I think that if you run upstarts, you should really run 3 or none, generally. That's just the way I like to do things. But it definitely does its job. It helps you dig for it. Only 2 Summoner's Art. This may come to a surprise to anyone who hasn't seen Qli profiles since the last list. Summoner's Art is obviously fantastic. It lets you search, but there's just not enough targets for it now. And you don't need 3 copies of Summoner's Art with only 3 targets now, because you don't really need to search Monolith that much. So I like 2 at the moment, and I think Ignite Reload does a lot of the consistency issues that you had before. Helps you deal with them. So traps now. 2 Climate Change. This is the reason that this is how you get your Scout back when it's gone. It's a great card. It lets you add up to 3 face-up Qli monsters from your extra deck to your hand, which is brilliant. This card is really, really good. It's necessary now. I'm liking 2. 3 is a bit cloggy. Then on to, Floodgates. 3 lose 1 turn. You all know what this does. It's fantastic. Doesn't really hurt Qli at all. And it's just a brilliant card. 1 Skill Drain. Again, it helps Qli more than it stops them. Vanities can stop you, but usually it's worse against your opponent than it is for you. Solemn Warning, because it's Solemn Warning. 2 Horn of Heaven, because when your Carrier or Helix is attributed by Horn of Heaven, they'll still get their effect off, which can be really helpful. And 1 Grand Horn of Heaven, because it's a pendulum format and you want to stop your opponent. So that's the deck. I really like this deck. The only issue I can see coming up with this deck is the release of the Monarch structure deck, because the reason this deck can compete now is because of how useful it is against the majority of the meta. It does a different thing to them. But with Monarchs coming out, it will do a similar thing to them, and I can see it being impacted by that because it's kind of like Monarchs, but worse, if you get what I mean. So yeah, that's my opinions. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and please like and subscribe.